Hello again, and welcome back to Just Like Other Girls with me, Shannon Fiedler, your host, as always. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who reached out to me in my call for help last week. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, I asked you guys as listeners of the pod to let me know what you think of it, what's working for you, what's not working for you, anything you'd like to hear more of, what you'd like to hear less of. I took your words to heart. It meant a lot to me to hear what you had to say and inspired me as I continue on this journey of Just Like Other Girls with you guys. So just a quick shout out to anyone who took the time to reach out. And if you haven't but are interested, still open. My DMs are always open. And as always, thank you for listening or watching if you watch on YouTube, and I love being able to connect with you guys in this format. So, it's spooky season. We are approaching Halloween. It is, if I was in college, this weekend would definitely be Halloween celebrations. And that's kind of what I want to talk about right now, is that I love Halloween. I have always loved Halloween. It's a holiday that is centered around costumes, which I love. That should be a surprise to no one. Centered around celebrating with people, but like in just a fun-loving way. It's all about fun. There's a lot of candy involved. I also love that. But I feel at sort of a weird inflection point with the holiday, not just because of my age. And I want to say, like, I think I talk about my age a lot on this podcast because it's just, I'm not necessarily talking about it in terms of like the age as a number, like, oh, I'm 31, that means X, Y, and Z, I have to do these things. Like, I genuinely believe age is just a number in a lot of ways. But I guess for me, it's less about like the actual age, but more the life stage that I'm in. And the easiest way to talk about that, qualify that, explain that is to say age. But I do mean life stage. And the reason that it feels weird this Halloween for me is because I feel like there's not a place for me in my life stage to really celebrate Halloween in any real capacity, right? So think about it. When you're a kid, that is prime time for Halloween, right? You go trick-or-treating, you have the parade at school, you get your costume. Like, obviously, Halloween is a big holiday for kids. And then once you get into high school and college, it's a huge party holiday, right? So like in college, you celebrate Halloweekend, right? Like I'm pretty sure everyone calls it that. We certainly called it that at my school, but it's like 4 days of Halloween parties, and it's all about dressing up. And we've all seen Mean Girls, there's like the element of like trying to look hot or trying to be funny or dressing up with your boyfriend or dressing up with a group of friends and going out and drinking alcohol and partying all night. It's a theme party, right? It's an excuse for a party. And that also happens when I think you're in your young 20s or that phase of life, right? When you first move out to whatever city you're going to live in and it's Halloween, and so you go to the bar and you dress up and there's other people at the bar that are dressed up, or maybe you go to the Halloween parade if you live in New York City. I'm sure other cities have that as well. There's like Halloween events that you go to that, again, are party centric. Maybe your friend throws a rager and then you all go out after and everybody's dressed up. And then I'm going to skip ahead. My friends who have kids are very much in this family zone of Halloween, right? Where you're dressing up your kid, you're taking them trick-or-treating, you're going to their school. So basically all the stuff that I already said you do as a kid, now you're doing that again, but from the parent perspective. And here I am somewhere in the middle, right? I don't have kids yet. I don't have nieces and nephews either, right? So I definitely have friends who also don't have kids, but they have nieces and nephews or cousins that they're very close to that are nearby, young, celebrating. So they'll go over and do trick or treat with them, do Halloween, or like go to some sort of Halloween event with their kids. Then I also have friends who have kids and are having that experience as well. So I don't have that yet. So I'm not in the family zone of Halloween. But I'm not really in the party zone of Halloween either. So I still go out to bars, right? I still go out with my friends, but it's not that same like party vibe, at least oftentimes, that it was when I was a little bit younger. It's more like, let's go to a fun cocktail bar. Like, if we're going out dancing, it's like very specifically we're going out dancing. Like we did it for my bachelorette party or something like that. It's not just like Saturday night we're going to a loud bar with a line where there's going to be crowded people and everyone's going to be in costume because it's Halloween. And that's not to say that there's nothing to do for Halloween when you're in this phase. I think a lot of people would probably have like house parties. It just so happens that none of my friends are having a house party for Halloween. I thought about throwing one to like be the person to do it, but it just like didn't work out schedule wise this year with like travel and stuff for me. So basically my point is Halloween is approaching. This coming weekend and next weekend are going to be big celebrations of Halloween. And I don't really have a specific Halloween event on the books, right? I don't have a Halloween party. No one I know is like, oh, we're going to like this event at this bar or restaurant. If I wanted to go out for Halloween, it would be me gathering a handful of friends, my husband, whatever, and being like, let's go to this bar and hope it's fun. And I have found, this is a larger discussion that is probably a topic for a different episode. I found it hard, at least in New York. It's the only city I can speak of because it's the city I live in. But I'm having a hard time finding bars that cater to people in their 30s, right? Like there's a lot to do for like if you get even a little older and you're at like a very swanky hotel bar or something like that. And like that's fun to do every once in a while. But like if I want to go out and like have some music or whatever, I feel like most of the bars cater to 25, right? And it's just a different vibe. It's people that are on the prowl a little bit more, probably drinking a little bit heavier than us 30-year-olds because their hangovers aren't as terrible as ours are now, and going out much later, right? Like I'm happy for my night to happen from like 9 to 11 and be like, cool, that was fun. But specifically for Halloween, I don't really know where I would go and be around other people that are in my phase or stage of life. And so I'm finding myself a little bit uninspired for Halloween this year, which is really unlike me. Like I said, it has always been one of my favorite holidays, especially in terms of costumes. I love costumes. I always make them myself. I pay such attention to detail. I pick a character usually that I want to be, and I make the closest possible facsimile to an exact replica that I possibly can. I'm always so proud. I take a lot of joy in making these costumes. But this year I was just like, where are we even going to wear it? And sure, we could find something to do. And I say we because I was going to do a couple's costume with my husband. But we could definitely find something to do. We live in New York City. There are a million places we could walk into that will be celebrating Halloween. There are different, again, we could go to the parade if we wanted to. We could do a lot of different things, but are they going to be fun? Are they places that I actually want to be? Or is it just me feeling like I need something to do for Halloween? And I've been struggling with this and I've been grappling with this because I don't want to be a Scrooge. And I know that's not the right holiday. So maybe I don't want to be a Frankenstein. I don't know what the Scrooge equivalent is for Halloween. I don't want to be a Halloween hater. I don't want to be someone who's like, I don't care about the holiday, because I love all holidays, and I think people who are too cool to celebrate stuff are missing out on a lot of opportunity for joy. And life can be really hard, and I think you need to like anything that can bring you joy and fun. And I'm such a believer in like tapping into your inner child and finding childlike wonder wherever you can. And I think holidays are a really good way to do that because it is a tie to when you were young, because a lot of holidays have traditions that started when you were a kid. That's a much deeper thought than what I'm really getting into right now. But I don't want to be a Halloween hater. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm just forgoing Halloween this year. But there's nothing that I really want to do. I wish a friend of mine was throwing a party or a family member was throwing a party, and it doesn't have to be like a rave. It could be a party where people bring their kids and we have Hocus Pocus on in the background and we're painting pumpkins or something, but we're all dressed up, whatever it is. I don't know. So that's something that I've been thinking a lot about. I'm feeling like a little uninspired for Halloween, which shouldn't be a thing, but it feels like a bit of an identity crisis to me. But there you have it. So TBD if I'm going to dress up this year, which is, again, this would be probably my first ever Halloween without having a costume, which is weird. It feels, I don't know, it feels bizarre, but we'll see what happens. I don't know, maybe at the last minute I'll get inspired to go to a random bar and just see what the vibe is and put on a costume from years past, because if I was going to do a costume in the way that I like to do it, I would have had to have been working on it for weeks already at this point. Last year, my husband and I were Carl and Russell from Up, the old man and the little boy. Partially that was because my husband tore his MCL, and so he had a cane, and a crutch, and we turned his crutch into like the walker. Like we put the tennis balls on the bottom, like the character in Up, and that was the inspiration and the impetus for the costume. But there was no way we weren't going to be a Disney couple. That's just inherent to my DNA and who I am. I guess actually the year before that was the COVID year. No, that was, I don't know what we did in 2021, but in 2020, we didn't do anything for Halloween because COVID. So I guess this will be the second year that I haven't dressed up for Halloween. Some other favorite costumes of mine, I have a tendency to be like children's book characters. So one year I was Eloise, which was really fun. I've been Minnie Mouse, obviously. That's just like, of course I was Minnie Mouse. I was Rey from Star Wars one year, and I did it like very intricately. And here's the thing, when you go intense about your costumes like I do, and you're like not willing to leave any detail unperfect, not that that's a word, but you know what I mean, you end up spending a lot of money on your Halloween costume, like an unjustifiable amount. However, I did order a pair of pants for my Rey costume that are like kind of cargo pants, and I save everything, especially costumes, because I might want to wear them again someday, who knows. And now I wear those pants just like out and about. So how's that for repurposing? Another favorite of mine, one year I was Rory Gilmore in her Chilton uniform, right down to the yellow backpack, and I printed out the Chilton insignia and I put it on my blazer, and I got saddle shoes, and that was probably one of my favorite costumes because I genuinely looked like Rory. I will say 85% of the people I encountered at that Halloween party were like, what is this costume? Are you just like a private school girl? So that was, I hate when people don't get it. One year, the first year that I moved to New York. So as you can tell, I take like a very intricate approach to Halloween. Don't worry. I went through my phase when I was younger where I was like, I just want to look as like hot as possible. That's not the approach that I've taken in the past like 10 years. So the first year I moved to New York City, I got invited to a Halloween party. So I'm like 22 years old. And I got invited to a Halloween party at Bagatelle. I don't know if you know Bagatelle. It is a club, like a club, and they called it Bagatelle, like hell, and they had like bats everywhere, and it was like a thing. So I got invited to this party. It's in the meatpacking district, okay? If you know New York City, you can now understand what Bagatelle is, meatpack. It's like the clubs that you see on TV, okay? It's like one of those places where they play music that doesn't have lyrics but does have words. It's just like party all night. It's like, that's not a lyric, but sure. Or like a lot of women carrying sparklers, in a basement where you're like, this has got to be like a fire code violation. And everybody is just like there to party. So I go to this party at Bagatelle, and every single girl there had taken the Mean Girls approach to Halloween, like they're wearing like a blue bra and a feather, and they're like, I'm a peacock, like that approach, which great, good for them. They all looked incredible. So they're like in stilettos and lingerie with like one thing on their head that like denotes some sort of costume. And I went dressed as Paddington Bear from the children's book. Not even like a cool, relevant children's book, like a book from like the 50s, a British teddy bear. I'm like seriously, like these women are in like bathing suits and I am in a button down pea coat, rain boots, and a rain hat. Although I will say it did rain that Halloween and I was the only one who was prepared. I was like walking through the streets like I am waterproof because I'm Paddington. But that was just like I've never felt more out of place in my life. I was just like new to New York. I was meeting like friends of friends, so not even like people I knew very well. And I just like show up at this party and immediately I knew I was like, oh, I have to leave. I do not belong here. I can't afford a single drink here because it's like $40 for a cocktail and I am a struggling actress who makes a part-time salary at Bloomingdale's. Like, we need to leave. And then we found some like, we walked a little bit east and out of meatpacking more into like, I don't know, I guess that's like Nolita. My geography is a little messed up, but we walked a little bit east and found just like a dive bar that had like music in the basement and it was like people in all kinds of costumes and some people did know I was Paddington and I ended up having a really fun night. But anyway, I guess my point is I don't want to go into like some full basement of people dressing up and dancing necessarily this year. I want to be around good friends in a fun costume, but who knows? We'll see. We'll see. I am finding other ways to celebrate, though. I did go to my friend's house and we painted pumpkins the other day, which was like very cute. And Pat was like, are you going on like a little play date? Like, he's like, this is really charming. And I feel like you're my fourth grader. And I was like, that's fair. And I painted mine to look like a candy corn, which brings me to my most important part of this entire podcast, which is the candy corn debate. Candy corn is, of all the foods in our universe, with the exception of pineapple on pizza, I would argue that candy corn is the most divisive food group. It's not a food group unless you are Buddy the Elf, but it is, people either love it or they hate it. And they love to tell you one way or the other. And whichever one you are, if they are the opposite, they're going to like get up in your grill about it. I am vehemently pro candy corn. It's sugar. What is not to love? It's amazing. It's like this waxy texture. You get to eat it once a year. It's tricolor. That's always fun. And it tastes amazing. It tastes like sugar. And the thing is, people who don't like candy corn hear you say that and they're like, it's disgusting. It's awful. I'm like, literally do not yuck my yum. Also, I know it's disgusting. Like, I'm not claiming that this is a nutritious meal. Like, candy corn is objectively kind of gross, but that's what makes it good. Like, if I eat too much candy corn, I am nauseous for hours. But here's the thing, I always end up eating too much candy corn because I really love candy corn. So once I get it, I eat a lot of it. Like, I literally took a specific trip yesterday to Target to buy myself candy corn because I was just like, I'm craving it. I haven't had it yet this season. What is Halloween without candy corn? And I opened the bag while I was working, and I ate so much of it that then I literally felt sick for dinner. So candy corn, friend or foe, both, okay? Like, I love it, but it is also going to cause my downfall. So I don't know, but I do feel like people have such strong opinions about candy corn. More than any other candy, right? Like, if I were to tell you right now, like, oh, I don't like Snickers. Of course, I like Snickers. They're amazing. But if I said I didn't, I feel like people would be like, oh, that's fine. Like, maybe you're not into peanuts. Or if I said I do like Snickers, somebody might be like, yeah, not my favorite candy bar, but like, I hear you. But if I'm like, hey, I like candy corn, someone's going to like come at me. And I think we should live in a world where people can eat candy corn in peace. I don't know. I like candy corn. I like a lot of things that have to do with Halloween. I like candy corn. I like small. I think all candy should be fun size because a lot of times you don't want a full candy bar. And if you do want a full candy bar, guess what? You could eat 3 fun size pieces. It's just portioning it out so you can decide how much you want. Also, it allows variety, right? Like, I can have a mini Kit Kat and I can have a mini Milky Way and then I can have a mini bag of dots. I don't know, whatever is in those Halloween starter packs, for lack of a better term. So here's the thing. If you grew up like I did in the suburbs, trick-or-treating is going from house to house, outside, it's cold, you're wearing a jacket. I live in New York City, in Manhattan specifically, so that's not really an option, right, for a lot of kids. Or they can do that, but what I've learned is that people go trick-or-treating in their apartment buildings. And what you do, because it's not like, do you have your lights on or off, because there aren't windows into the hallway, is if you I live in a building with a doorman, so we sign up with the doorman to say, like, we're open for business. Like, trick-or-treaters, welcome. And ever since I was like 22 years old, which is like not a grown-up, but I was so excited to have trick-or-treaters. And so I've always done that, and I'm excited for that. And that is definitely going to be like a fun part of my Halloween celebrations. I love putting on like a Halloween themed movie and waiting for the trick-or-treaters to come and getting them candy. And like sometimes I'll wear like my costume, or I'll wear like, I don't know, mouse ears or something. It's very fun. And that makes me really excited for like when I have my own kids and get to experience trick-or-treat as a parent. I think that's going to be really fun. So I'm excited to do that. But yeah, that's how I'm feeling about Halloween this year. I'm feeling the truth of the matter is like it's kind of getting me down. I do feel a little sad that I don't have big Halloween plans. I do think that it's like naturally a part of growing up. Like it used to be, like I said, in college or even right out of college, I needed like 4 different Halloween costumes. I mean, I didn't need them. I could have repeated them, but I, as previously stated, love a costume. So, it was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, even Sunday, Halloween weekend. Like it was such a thing. I could not go out 4 nights in one weekend now. I would have to go to a hospital, or spend the next 5 weeks in bed. Like that's just not where I'm at in my life anymore. I'm very grateful that I had a time in my life when that was fun and I liked doing that and I had the opportunity to do that. I'm also very grateful that I'm not doing that anymore. I feel like I talk about this a lot, not just on the pod, but also in my social content. It's a big theme in my stand-up. I talk about it with my friends ad nauseum, so they're probably sick of hearing me talk about it, but there is something very weird about the experience of being in the middle of an inflection point of life. And I want to be clear, when I say I'm too old to do something, it's not me passing a judgment being like, oh, I don't belong, or like I could never wear that, like I'm too old. Again, it's not about the age as a number thing, but it's that I don't actually want to do those things anymore. I miss doing them, and I miss a time when I enjoyed doing them. And there's like a weird nuance and shade to that where like I don't actually want to be out at a bar that I would have gone to when I was 23 years old. But there is a part of me that misses the phase of my life when I would have wanted to do that, if that makes sense. But I haven't grown into what I think is the next stage, right? This sort of like, okay, I'm having dinner parties in my home, or I have a kid and I've made friends with my kid's friends' parents, or just focusing in that realm. I feel like I'm sort of like in between 2 big phases where it's like I could go either way, and it's hard to know which one is right at any given moment. And I just feel like there are less spaces and places that are catering to, for lack of a better term, that phase of your life. And so for whatever reason, Halloween is hitting it super hard this year, where I feel like I'm excited about the phase that will come in a couple of years. I'm excited, or I look back fondly on the phases that I've had in my life. I don't know what to do right now. Nothing really sounds that appealing to me other than making the costume, but I'm not going to put on a costume and just like sit in my apartment. That would probably spiral me into a depression. So anyway, that's where I'm at, but I'm making the most of it. Like I said, I'm doing some other like fun, chiller holiday things. I'll probably make Pat the past couple of years on November 1st, which is Dia de los Muertos. We watch Coco and make nachos. That's just like become our thing. Coco is one of my favorite movies of all time, animated or not. Like I just love that movie. So I'll find other ways to celebrate. And I actually think I love Halloween, but like Christmas, I'm a Christmas girly, like a lot of people. And I'm actually part of this weird feeling, this like sort of push and pull that I'm having internally about Halloween is actually making me more excited for Thanksgiving and Christmas and like the holiday season, and even New Year's, which is like a whole other thing that I'm sure I'll talk about because that is a crazy holiday loaded with a lot of whatever. But I'm excited for the holiday season because I do think that like the activities and ways of celebrating those holidays fit a little bit more neatly into where I'm at in my life phase. Like there's a lot of romantic stuff. So like being a newlywed, like that's really fun. You know, I do have a big family with like some little kids that make the holiday fun, but like I wouldn't necessarily see them at Halloween because they're not physically close to me. But I definitely will see them around the holidays. So like that's always fun. I feel like there are a lot of ways to celebrate the holidays in New York, whether that's like going ice skating or having a nice cocktail at like a fancy decorated hotel bar or walking around and seeing the lights, going Christmas shopping. Like there's a lot of really festive things to do that aren't centered around partying that still feel festive and like you're being social and having a good time with friends. Like I'm not going to do SantaCon and I'm not necessarily going to hit every pop-up Christmas bar that the city has to offer, but I am going to be able to do things that feel very festive and in season. And I feel like there's more gatherings at people's homes and stuff. So I don't know. It's a time of life thing. But all that to be said, whatever you're doing for Halloween, whether you're not celebrating as much as you want to be or you're celebrating to the nines, if you're watching scary movies and eating candy corn, or you're dressing up and going out partying, maybe you're in college and you are celebrating to the fullest, like live your life, enjoy it. Maybe you have kids and you're taking them trick, whatever you're doing, I hope you have a happy Halloween. It is such a fun holiday. So whatever you're doing to mark it, I hope it's bringing you some joy, because I think we can all use a little bit of joy. And that's where I'm at. So happy Halloween, guys. Thank you again for listening. As always, you can listen to this wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch it on YouTube. Please, if you have any thoughts, like I said at the beginning, at the top of this episode, feel free to reach out. My DMs are always open, and I really love hearing what you guys think, and whether that's just a response to something I said or feedback or questions or things you want to hear about. I love hearing what you guys have to say. So this was Just Like Other Girls. As always, I'm Shannon Fiedler, and we'll talk next week.